Welcome back, audience. Hope you're doing good. Ah, let me get my mat. There you go. I'm back. Well, let's talk about something real. Okay. Um, I want to talk about how to handle the Babylon horse. You'll see what I mean in a second. And your love relationship on this side and this holistic side, which means you're just alchemizing all the energies. You're not being pushed out into the hedonistic pleasure seeking mode. That's what it is. And it is, you are living in a different vibe. Okay, your energy is flowing the opposite of how the matrix people energy is flowing, like oil and water. It just doesn't mix. Okay, it doesn't make you sort of like elitist or anything like that. It's just a metaphysical fact. Okay, and this is exactly what I want to talk about now. But what is often the case when you start alchemizing all the energies that are happening naturally because of the natural time cycles, and they appear and you have to alchemize it, and sometimes it's related with some sort of connections, but you do it within yourself by putting your attention at the source of these, so you don't let them manifest. You guard the portal, so to speak, right? And as long as you're doing that, you're gonna have this peaceful, blissful vibe that you're in. Okay, and then you go throughout the day, do what you gotta do. You dream, you use your imagination while you're in that space, and you're just using all the faculties of consciousness the way it's supposed to be used to live this type of life. But uh, I mean, Matrix is super opposed to this. You have to understand. Okay, so don't be surprised that you being sort of like happy in your soul and working on your dreams, your soul desires, because now you don't have these ego tantrums. You're not distracted with some sort of pussy chasing nonsense and whatever. Or you know if you're a female, the other type of chasing, which, by the way, I mean, let's just be honest, like, the gates of hell has opened. Okay, and now that lust and that hate thing is just roaming free. The veil has lifted and all the demons are coming out to play, right? And so you see men and women just like unbelievable, like, to me, just affected by the energy because they do not have their own that field of energy, that aura, that vibe that you're in, where everything else, where in this is different type of ideas, different type of thoughts, different type of views that are running around, right? But if they don't have that, any kind of whatever's going on in the hive mind, that's what happens in their body. And so, you know, they may feel like that lust attack, you know, and then become super indiscriminate about their sexuality and stuff like that. Okay. Um, Now there's few things to say about that. One is that, in your particular case, in our particular case, it is a type of temptation that you could look at as, going through the desert. You got to go through the desert, right? Saying no to all these possible temptations that arise. If you're willing to go through it and you really are interested in having a true love relationship, okay? If you are sucked into by that world, okay, and that world is quite clever, it's going to try to convince you that, it's okay, Even though it's true that the human body has a need for sex at least monthly, right? Still, like in this particular case, and what's going on in the Matrix, and it's not like what happened before. It's not like what's happening 20 years and 10 years ago. It's different right now, because if it sucks you into that thing, all the morals, not that morals ever mattered, but all your soul, true soul desires don't matter anymore, and the ego goes wild, and it's gets swimming into that honey so much that it just becomes this downward spiral into this lust driven sex drive, right? This is why at this particular point in time, even though it's true that your human body does need uh, sex, and it's a human body need, but it's not, it needs once a month. Actually, that's the need, right? Everything else is for the enjoyment and all these other reasons. So your body can function fine if you at least have that release monthly, I suppose. And some people say that, every 2 weeks, and some people say every week, whatever. The point of it all is your body will function fine if you have that type of release. And I talked about this particular case, what's going on right now. You don't want to open up to the Matrix horse. I'm sorry. For like, am I really sorry? No, I'm not sorry. It's just the truth, okay? Maybe you can use another label if you like, but that's what it is. And I just want to be clear and real in this particular case, because I know that like that energy is trying to suck me into this as well, okay? And so for some moments I kind of lose myself into it, because it has a very strong pull. And but I don't spend too much time there, because the only reason I go in there, because I think that there's a potential of something that could be real love, and and whatnot, or some romance or something like that, right? But it's just like this pure indiscriminate lust drive that is horrendous. It's very sickly energy. It's very sickly passion. It drains you, really. It drains your soul energy. It puts you all in your ego. So no, you gotta be strong. Okay, so I'm closing my candy shop. Honestly, I'm probably closing my candy shop indefinitely. No, honestly, I'm like I don't want to go there. Okay, because I know how that energy feels like. This is like somebody may contact you, and it's just like a wave of lust coming your way, and it's like, what the fuck. And you're like, okay, calm down, calm down. Yeah, no, no, thank you. It's okay. I'm good. I'm good. All right? I'm good. This is not love. I don't want to meet you on that level. And so there's going to be all sorts of offers that coming your way like that, because the more that energy is intensifying. Um, but there might be some gullibility within you that goes like, well, maybe this time is going to be different kind of thing. And so that vulnerability is going to let you open up to that energy that is not really offering you something of value. It's a trap. And let me tell you something about this. Everything you do in life, this is part of my consciousness model, is the type of portals. Okay? It's a type of timeline portal. You're going to go through this, or you won't go through this, and there's just like these opportunities, which, by the way, the word opportunity does have the word port in it, and it's a portal. Okay? I'm not making this up. This is exactly how consciousness works. And the portal can open, right? It has a certain type of energy. Now, I know that I'm getting into this like a cyber reality right now, but we should be aware of energetically what's going on and what kind of contracts and what kind of offers that little portal offers, and that could be a person with their intentions, right? Because they may just say hello, how you doing, but you look at this and the vibe is like, you know, like they just want to take your shit and give nothing back in return. And I'm talking about specifically the energy. And I classify those two energies as confidence and innocence. Those are real soul energies out of which everything stems from. Okay? So matrix always comes in, and if you have that feeling of lust that's coming from the woman, and it is a type of false innocence. She's not really willing to open up, but there's that openness, that lust, basically. Hey, come here. You're gonna have pleasure, and I'm gonna take your energy. Then you're gonna feel drained, and and forget about your dreams, forget about what you really want, and you're gonna be fucked like that. Okay, and if you keep going that way, you're totally fucked. So that's the offer there. There's no real innocence there. It's falsified innocence. And of course, the same thing from the woman's perspective, or how the guy come in, and when the guy come in, he's like, hey, want some sausage? This really what they're saying. And what they're saying is like, hey, I wanna put my energy that is painful in you. I just wanna dump that shit onto you. Right? So that's that false confidence. Right? So the false confidence is arrogance, and the false innocence is cunningness. So beware of when somebody's approaching you with the cunningness. The word cunt is actually coming from this word. And arrogance, which is that false confidence, which just wants to inject that bad energy into you, and the other one wants to suck the good energy out of you. Okay, so just beware. And people may be under that type of spell, and they part of the matrix, and they may say things, they may look good, they may say spiritual, even spiritual things, the spiritual things that they read, that seems like a nice quote, as if they're living them. Right? It may seem very alluring because it's like, well, this person seems to be spiritual. Then why the fuck do I feel this wave of lust and no love, no intention for reciprocate? Why is that energy here if you are just portraying yourself so spiritual? Now, of course, if you look at it a little bit deeper, you'll see that there's nothing spiritual there. That she's very likely, posting her ass on Instagram or something like that, shaking her booty all over the place. Probably completely indiscriminate about her sexuality and things like that. And the same thing, the men who are under that type of spell as well. In other words, matrix whores. Male and female. Okay? So it's a type of lust attack that you may be going through. Okay, don't bother with these things. Okay, this I'm saying from the experience. And if you're in this type of situation, and perhaps you already slipped it or whatever, and it's like, and you're not kind of sure, should I just give in to this way of life? This, it's just like they seem to be having fun. They just smash whatever and whomever, and it's all great, right? No, it's a poison. My advice, don't do it. And of course, like if you alchemize all the energies, you'll see the same thing. But there, I just want to say something about that vulnerability, about your little soul. Okay? There's one thing when you're alchemizing all these energies, to have that peace and bliss energy floating around, and people call this unconditional love and unconditional truth. Okay? That's not to confuse with the personal, because there's something else that's going on with the personal. Okay? Let me just be kind of clear about this. So when you have that aura floating around you, people can be in your presence, right? You are not open to their hive mind at all. You are not, reading their thoughts. You are nothing there. You are not really connected at that little soul level. The inner sanctum is closed, but you are just feeling peaceful and blissful, and they will have some effect from it. It's just like a rain. Everybody has that's why it's called unconditional, because you are not in control of it. Whoever needs it gets it, right? It's just that big aura. And you're not deciding, well, I don't want to give this person, I don't want to give. No, if somebody gets a benefit from that piece and they pick that up, they have a right to do so. Does that make sense? That's what you're calling this universal unconditional love, but it's not personal. It is not personal. And that idea that once you're going to find that big unconditional love and this unconditional truth, as I call it, which is peace and bliss, that is not acquired through the seeking way of the temporary state of mind. This is just emanating from your soul, because you have alchemized all the energies that were preventing from happening, for that to happen. Okay. Now, on the personal level, something else is going on. On the personal level, that energy is limited. It is not infinite. If power, if bliss is infinite, if that peace is infinite and indiscriminatory, and anybody can be bathed into that, whoever is picking up on that energy, it's fine. That's great. But on a personal level, it is must be highly selective, and that's what it matters. For example, if somebody comes up into your aura, into your field, they can be in your presence, but doesn't mean that you have opened up that little heart to them. Does that make sense? It's different. I don't want to confuse those two, because people sometimes just say like, oh, unconditional love, unconditional love. No, the unconditional love is unconditional. This is something different. This is something different. This is highly, highly selective and highly specific to one specific soul. Okay? And if you open up that little heart to somebody who's not in that type of reciprocating, or not even compatible, or have that type of intentions, you can scan their energy, you know exactly what their intentions are, man, it's obvious, right? Then do not open up. Okay? Don't fall for it, and just do not. Your presence and your vibe, without opening your little heart, is enough for these people to be in, if they want to be in. Does that make sense? There's this another little heart thing. And so with that, you have to be very, very careful who you open up. Why you have to be careful? Because if you open up that energy, what they have, it mixes with yours right now. And the problem that happens is that it throws your soul out of whack, and the attention gets out of whack. And now that peace and bliss that was emanating, you also lose that. So that's what happens when you fall for it. Okay? So don't fall for it. And this particular time, I know when people start alchemizing these energies and start living in that peaceful, blissful, there is very, very strong drive in your soul to find someone to play this game of life. There is a very, very strong drive. It's like you feel it, that there's another half of you that's perhaps you feel it, but they're not here physically, right? And this is what's almost if in the Matrix people will be focusing on other things, and other things will be kind of more important. People who are alchemizing energies, the way I talk to them, they're all telling me that there's this feeling that there's other half of them is, they feel that presence of them, right? But they're not physically, and they see like, okay, they somehow, some way, I gotta make sure that they come in and connect with me in the physical, right? Now, I'm not talking about this dysfunctional belief system twin flame thing where people, what do they do? What do they do? They fall for it. They open up to somebody who's not willing to reciprocate. There is that quality of love there, that just enough for you to be hooked up on it, and so leak your energy and be in this toxic dynamic. Okay, the correct thing to do is close off, because everything could be perfect, but this one thing where just like they're not willing completely, you know, uh, go for it, and you know, and this idea is like, well, maybe you just stick around, and if with time that's going to change. No, forget about everything that you learned in the Matrix. In the holistics, it does not work like that. In the holistics, there's clarity of one person meeting another person in clarity. There's clarity there. There's a communication. There's immediate. There's a recognition. There's a familiarity and immediate knowing who are you to each other. And so if you didn't, if you know, if love at first sight is not possible in the Matrix, right? Because then it would be just infatuation. Upon alchemizing these energies, upon purifying your soul, upon gaining that clarity, when you meet somebody, there is a total clarity immediately, because you're meeting at an infinite level. It's not think it's like, well, let's see where this goes. It takes time to no, it doesn't work like that. There's immediate recognition. Okay? And there's it has to be a reflective property. If you are ready, if you are open, if you're in that clarity, right? And another person is in that readiness, in that clarity, then what kind of things are you talking about when someone is running away from each other? What are you talking about? This does not happen. That only happens in the matrix dynamics that are toxic. Okay? This happens just purely, directly, and clearly, and it's just open. And sometimes you're just like, I'm in the clarity, and you meet someone else that's also in the clarity, and immediately just like, hey, and the souls are talking, and it's like, oh, I get it, I get what you do, I get what, I get who you are, what you are, and everything, But like I immediately know that like, oh, we're friends, okay, clarity, okay. There's no things like, oh, are we friends or can it go somewhere? No, it's you immediately know we're friends, okay. And if something else is going on, there's a clarity about something else. So when the soul speaks completely to each other at this energy level in clarity, there's immediate and instant communication and understanding there, and there's no doubts. There's no something like, oh, we're friends, but let's see if we can make it romantic or something like that, right? You immediately know that you're not going there, because this is not why you're met with to each other. Okay. And in the matrix, of course, there's all sorts of friends with benefits and all that stuff. One second. And at one point, and I mean, if you no, at this particular time and at this point in my life and where I'm at and how important is the clarity, this friends with benefits thing is also abomination, right? This is why there's so many things that are different here. You can see this, like, because you would break something, right? Like, because if there's clarity that you're friends and you met for some reason to help each other out and some reflect to each other something, but if you make it about lust, you will lose both, right? And you will break yourself out of clarity and all that stuff. So no, okay, it's nonsense. At this particular way of life, in the art of living. Okay, so the reason I'm saying this, because sometimes I thought that I have responsibility to, sort of almost like alchemize everybody else's energies. And I realized that it's not the case. And every time you meet somebody, um, how to say it? If they are dumping their energy sort of onto you, because that's what they're trying to do, right? But they don't have that openness themselves, where it's almost like we're going to dissolve anything that is in a way of our hearts kind of approach, right? Then you're gonna end up having all of that burden by yourself. You're gonna be working real hard alchemizing the energy, but that does not really belong for you to alchemize. It belongs for them to alchemize, right? And in a couple I call alchemy and devotion. There's two types of approaches, and both sides supposed to be doing that, right? And it's just logical that that type of connection happens naturally, because you're alchemizing your part and they're alchemizing their part. It's just like that type of thing, right? Now, if they're not living life like that, if they're still chasing some seeking and is chasing experiences, is often what I see in women right now. They don't know what the fuck is going on, so they keep on chasing from one experience to another. I'm going to go to this tantric thing, then I'm going to go to this thing, then I'm going to go to this thing, then I'm going to pop some psychedelics with these people that I don't know. I'm going to go like literally like that, Somebody invited me, a group of men in a jungle. I'm just going to go there because they're drinking ayahuasca and they invited me for free. And it's just like one woman with 12 men. What the fuck do you think is going on there? So there, and they're running around like a headless chicken, seeking hedonistic pleasures, pretending that it's anything to do with the spiritual, and taking psychedelics, and that just makes them even more seek that hedonistic pleasure. It's disaster. And you have all these other people who taking psychedelics, taking ayahuascas, and say like, oh, look at two of my girlfriends here, and I'm gonna impregnate them both, and God told me that to do this, and shit like that. No, it is not just like the way of life. It's okay. It's a Babylonian, approach to life. It is not how the societies function, right? If you say like, well, maybe some societies could function like that, then that's a Babylonian society. It's still not it. It's still hedonistic pleasure driven. Okay? Because you can't possibly, when I'm talking about that little heart, when that little heart is open to somebody, one soul, and they're open to you, and there's that real love there, how the fuck is there a space for somebody else? There isn't, because it's just complete and total immersion into each other. If you don't have that, that's not love, and that you're gonna be, settling for some Babylonian nonsense, So, look, this is my approach right now. I mean, you don't have to do this. It's just the way I see things right now, okay? And I'm pretty hardcore, but I just go with my heart. And I always trust my heart as much as I can. Sometimes I slip up, but I find my place back up again. And because I keep slipping up, it gives me an insights of all of these possible diversions and temptations and how they all work. And every time I do this, I gain some wisdom and say like, oh, I know how this energy feels like. I know what it's there. Some portals that open up, some offers to connect with people are supposed to be just no. You just say no. Thank you. No. Because you feel the energy. And see, I know your intentions, and just know, right? Like if somebody has like intention to rob you or steal something from you or scam you and is offering you something, right? Just like, hey, send me some money. I'm a prince of Nigeria, and if you do that, you see what I'm trying to say, right? So it's a lot of times like that it happens with people. So I had to say no. Okay. And then as soon as I do this, I immediately get my clarity back. My energy gets back collected, and everything's flowing back up again. So my take is this right now: is this direct way of living, this art of living, is real. There is a way to live life on this planet that is just like a super awesome, wholesome, and you have your soul desires that can only be fulfilled by your attention, this internal movement, and by placing your attention and awareness and connecting those two dots from the observer observed, whatever you want to call it. There's that, you know, that thing that dissolves any kind of separation in your heart, which is your heart desire. And it just, you can call it like a yin and yang separating, and they just wanted to be back together. And you do this by placing your attention and awareness and letting those energies connect back in your heart. Okay. And everything seems like the tree, actually. I don't want to expand about it too much, but there is a tree of life in your heart. And every time there's a separation, it's a soul desire. And there's might be 56 of them according to my calculations. But it's the exact same template used for the mind and the body. Very interesting. Okay. I mentioned a little bit in the previous video, but it's the exact same template is used. Like your hunger is exact same faculty of the desire drive that is in your soul, that may be an emotion, right? So it's the exact same template used. Soul, mind, and body, same template. But there's a different approach of how to reconnect the separation. And it does look like the tree, you know, like the tree and the roots, right? So that's how it looks like. Possibly more like if you go deeper, it's just like a pure geometry, and you will notice, you will find that to be the case. I'm seeing some things in my eyes right now, but it's there, it's real. Okay, now as I'm saying this, you may say those things are kind of abstract. They're not abstract just because you cannot be visualized. This is why I will want to visualize that in a 3D models and all sorts of things. And I'm already sort of working on that, of how to show the states of consciousness to people in the visualistic approach, so people can see that and perhaps have some clarity about that, and recognize even that shape of this toroidal field as this emotion that they're feeling inside. So you see, because you can go and interpret that in any different ways and make it artistic and poetic, but fundamentally there's just geometry playing things. And I would like to go and show that this geometrical, even though it's a almost like a fluid dynamics and it's difficult to portray, but I think it's possible. And then from there you can interpret this in any kind of way. And I really think it's like, even like the motions, toroidal motions that are being made there, it's also corresponding to the symbols that we use, the letters that we use. They correspond to these energetic states of consciousness that could be visualized like that. And it's universal. It's not like it's just my consciousness, everybody's consciousness. You see? That's what's so cool. But anyway, besides this particular point, what I'm trying to say is that in the heart, when a separation happens, usually with attention and awareness. In the mind, magic's fantasia. Because there are mind desires, right? Your dreams. Like what kind of dream do you want, or what's your soul desire? You gotta be dreaming about that. And when you dream, it feels good. And that's enjoyment. Enjoyment actually happens in the mind. Joy happens upon alchemy. Enjoyment happens upon magic. And pleasure happens upon might or physical action, right? So there's three different drives. They all reconnect, and they all ask specific faculty, and you cannot use logics what logo supposed to use, and you cannot use magics what the logo supposed to be used, and you cannot use logos when the logics need supposed to be used. Does that make sense? So if you are at this point in understanding that there's you got to point the right faculty of your consciousness to the right desire, which is you can be seen as a problem or things that to resolve. There's something that is there. It's just a desire, and that's so cool. I think that Trinity symbol, sometimes when you see those three, it's just what you do. It's just like you point this to that to reconnect the dots in your heart. You point this to that to reconnect the dots in your mind, and you move to reconnect the dots in the body, right? Now, soul, desires. So, one primary thing that you will notice upon alchemizing is that there's one primary split that makes yin and yang, and there's other fragmentation and splits. So when you alchemize everything, and you are at that point of that you just basically there's no where else to go more, because you are at that point of just like that first primordial split, and you're just fluxing between the union and split, and that's what produces that peaceful, blissful energy at one side of your soul. So there's that reconnection that's already happening on one side of your soul, and that's what creates a desire now on the mind side and the body side to replicate what's there already in your heart, and that is that union, and that union with your other half. And so therefore that desire is born right now in your mind, and you may be even dreaming about this, and it's that desire is very strong to fulfill the completion of that half thing that is missing on one side that is already complete on the other. This is I believe this is like the metaphysical explanation of why people, when they're alchemizing the energies, they do feel that upon this feeling of complete completion, the desire of expressing it as playfulness and wanting to express that playfulness with that part of them that is now sort of incarnated as the opposite gender, right? So now you may ask the question, is this like a specific particular soul, or you see what I'm trying to say? I don't know about this, honestly. Like, to me it makes sense, because if you are a soul, right, and you incarnated as a woman or a man, there must be other half of you that is also a soul, and only one. Because if it's you only one, if you're unique, then the other half has to be only one, only unique as well. And again, I know what I'm saying here, it's just not really accepted in the matrix. And see, like, well, they call it one-itis, when you think it's believe in that one particular woman, because it's usually it's not that particular woman. There's just a belief that she is, and that's the one-itis. What I'm talking about is real. It's not the one-itis. It is true, right? And given the fact that what's going on in the matrix right now, this dissolution of morals, and therefore now the truth is coming out, and there's this choice: are you going to go to the Babylonian society or holistic society? Okay, what do you want? Do you want true love, or do you want to have orgies all the time? Okay, and so you gotta make the choice, actually, because you can't have both. So that's pretty much what's going on, right? So at this point, like, I'm not even that much bothered. Like, you could see a lot of adventures that's going on, and men are losing their fucking minds about women, and it's like, how is it possible? And but at the same time, they're being hypocritical because they're doing the same bullshit all their life. I'm trying to say, like, all that shit, right? And then people talk about, oh, women are programmed to do so, right? They use that biology animal model that women are programmed to do so, and that is just like to the gene survival kind of thing, and all of that animalistic explanation of that drive And yes, it is true if a person is run completely by their ego through the animalistic drives, okay, then it is true, okay, but it's not ultimately true, because people talk about sexuality is supposed to be sacred. Like, what do you think sacred is? So a lot of times people, I see people doing that, right? Like, and look, and I'm not judging, they are what they are, but I'm seeing them like it's just being hypocrite. They think that that's sacred. It's bullshit. They don't know anything about this, what sacred is. Okay, when you're no longer animal in your heart, then that true love, of course, then that produces real romance and real sex. Okay, and you do get to have all that type of pleasure what your body kind of needs, but at the same time you have love, romance, and pleasure, right? You do end up having it all, actually, if you don't sell your soul and just get stuck into that hedonistic pleasure drive. Does that make sense? Because then the pleasure is put appropriately where the body needs. Your heart is fulfilled, your mind is fulfilled, and your body is fulfilled. So the whole system is happy in this type of relationship. And you may ask, like, what you talk about, as if you know this, like as if you are living this. And my answer to that is that because I see it, I uh, I'm not living this in the physical, but I'm not giving up on this. I believe in rainbows and unicorns, and I'm not giving up on this. Okay, and I already have those types of experience that I'm explaining to you, but they're not physical yet. They're non-physical, but they're real, because, and that's what makes me to not to give up on this and say that, okay, the physical part is the last part, but I gotta stick with it, not to sell my soul, and it's gonna come in the physical. And honestly, to the point, what I said, like, my point right now is that I don't care if it comes into the physical in this lifetime or next lifetime. I don't care. I don't want to live life in this hedonistic way. I want to live life, even if it's in my dreams, even if it's my imagination. I'm good, because to have that peace and that bliss in the background, and have that imagination, and astral travel, and live your life the way you want to live, and even though nothing is going on in the physical, in the same way, I don't care. And if the physical gives me something that's a half ass and it's trying to pretend to be like this, I'm just going to say, no, thank you. I'd rather be alone by myself physically, but completely whole in my heart and with somebody in my dreams. I'd rather do that, because that could I could live like that for the rest of my life and be very, very happy. Then just to take that half-ass offer in the physical, which is just like some toxic nonsense and it's just like abomination of love, and engage into that. No, thank you. Definitely not. And that's how I would know if something comes up in the physical reality. That's how I would know, because I would have the same type of feelings in my heart, the same type of resonance in the mind, the same type of sense of beauty, the sense type of awe, the sense of love, the sense of familiarity, and the mystery, all in one, will just be physically present in front of me. And I will know. There's not going to be any kind of needing date, um, or any kind of, you know, pick the chicks up, or you see what I'm trying to say? None of none of it, right? And I understand that what I'm talking about is may appear to be extreme in this planet, just because beliefs are accepted to be like a part of humanity does not mean that there could not be life, or that it does not mean that that's even a human thing to do, to live in the belief system. That doesn't even mean that. Just because it's been happening for hundreds of years, it does not mean that it's a model of how life's supposed to happen. Even on the planets with a lot of contrast and a lot of things to alchemize, you know? Even on those realities, these video games, it's possible to live holistically. So, in my view, what happened here was this reality is a troublesome reality. It is reality that where demons are winning. You see, it's the reality that humans did not figured out of how to live in, you know, the art of living, and in that type of way. And we're coming up to this bottleneck effect right now. This is why you have all these challenges. This is why you have these psychic attacks and these lust attacks and things like that. And this is why you have these people from the matrix trying to connect with you in abominable ways. And this is why you got to say no to that. This is all this bottleneck effect. But if you're going to go through the eye of a needle in your heart, you're going to rob that energy that matrix has been using to get away with their stuff and create their dark agendas and stuff like that. That's the only thing that you can do, is not to give your own energy anymore. And you may think, well, maybe that's not a big deal, but it's a massive deal, because it um it reverberates to other souls, and it echoes. And so, because you do it, other people do it too. Does that make sense? So this is why it's massive. It's not a little bit, you know. It's like, what's gonna be if I'm just gonna draw my energy to myself and my dreams? I should say ourself, actually, because that's one thing that is very clear, is that there's no me anymore. And if anything is there, it's us. That's why that separation that happens, that selfishness, that ego, is because there's me, right? But when upon the alchemy, when there's no separations, and people say, well, we don't have to name it, right? And you don't have to name it. But what, or you can call it like, well, that's a union and peaceful, blissful. Uh, but if you do have to name it, then you have to name it that there's two of you as one. So it's us. And this is how I started looking at this. This is not me, because if it's me, then I'm not taking in consideration the other half of me. Does that make sense? Like, because I'm saying me as just the half, and that's a problem. The whole problem with everything is because there's a separation between the masculine and the feminine, and the feminine goes its way and the masculine goes its way, and there's that separation, and all the wars happen because of this, all the problems happen because of this, and it's just because they went the separate ways. And that there's that meanness that's happening, there's that selfishness, there's that ego, there's possibility for the ego to develop, right? But the promise was that we're going to come in here, and then we're going to be alchemizing everything that is between us. We're going at our heart. We're going to look there. We're going to, you see what I'm trying to say? We're going to look there. We're not going to seek with the mind to resolve what needs the attention of the heart. We're not going to do this. But that was skipped, and we went to the mind, and that was, well, let's just use the mind to compensate for the lack of the heart. and then all the problems start happening. And in one perspective, you can say that, look, in one perspective, you can say that this virtual reality, uh, when people, lots of souls is like, hey, let's play this game. This looks like fun, right? It's very challenging. It's like, you sure you want to go? It's very challenging. You need to have experience for this, and you need to know how everything works and how the energy. There's a way of living. And the souls is like, oh no, yeah, good, let's just do it. Fuck it, all good. And then went in, and then sure enough, they don't know what the fuck is going on, and they don't have skills, and then you have a lot of noobs on this server playing a difficult game. And then somebody else needs to come in and says like, fuck, these noobs are just fucking up. And then some other souls come in who are veterans in these types of games, and they say, let's just see if we can fix this shit, because these noobs just fucked it all up. That's the way I see it as. Because I really think that people who are developing like a bad code and believing that they're helping the society and all that stuff, I really think that they actually noobs. They're noobs. And they don't have the experience of how to play this game of life. And I'm not tooting my own horn here, even though my name is Kestutis. But anyway, I'm not tooting my own horn, because it took me 40 something years, and still, like, sometime I'm looking at it like, well, maybe I just can just give in to this machine, and because everybody, or a lot of people, I shouldn't say everybody, are just giving into this machine, and they never really, or they don't really have that desire to figure out that soul thing, right? And it's all about the mind for them. I think, why don't you just like give into this thing? But I can't. Something in my heart cannot do this. It makes me sick. If I give in for a little bit, it makes me very sick. And I can't do it. So I would rather just be, a warrior in the garden and do my thing. And yes, I need to alchemize all sorts of temptations and lust attacks and hate and lust, which is normally those two, the masculine and the feminine, corrupt energies that trying to fuck with you, and they really do come in as these portals and say, hey, come in here. But you got to say no to all of this, right? Because you already have lots of energy to alchemize every day. So you already have your work cut out for you. Take care of that. Stay connected in your heart with your other half. You see, there's so many other nonsense just falls off. All the spirituality, all the seeking is just poof, gone. Not important no more, because you found one particular key, your attention and awareness on the source of all the quote unquote negative feelings or anything that separates you from that peace. And this is just that particular attention that when it's placed, magic happens. Everything starts burning up. Everything, right? And yes, I know it may come as a sacrifice on a personal life, and you say, well, what about romance? My human body is a human body, wants romance, wants touch, wants physical touch. And I totally get that. But you cannot go and have that romance and the physical touch with somebody who is just a trap of the matrix. And if there's no real thing that's going on there, you don't go there. You're still still a kind human being, and you're talking to people, but you don't open up your little heart. You're vibing, and people like to be in your presence, and you're talking, and you're being kind and everything, but there's no openness in your heart. That is highly selective, and opens up only to somebody that matches that uniqueness that you have first. Then there's going to be the friends, like that connect with that as well. All the fragments in your heart are actually your soul tribe, your other half, which is the most important thing. And that's why you need your other half, because you went on this alchemical battle with demons. And some people don't how can they sometimes they cannot understand this thing. And I talk with other people who are going through this, and um it's very difficult to understand when the wave of some energy attack comes your way, and that when you just kind of, for no reason whatsoever, you are in like some sort of like confusion and fear and pain and all sorts of things that are happening inside of you, and it's just seemingly no real reason to happen, and you got to fucking deal with that, right? And then people don't understand because they're not experiencing this. So how could they understand what you are going through, right? This is why they will never understand this. They could relate a little bit, but they would never understand what it's like to just do your best not to lose your shit and not to become psychotic, um and handle all of that in the right way. Okay. So that's enough, right? That's hard enough. Then if you just start opening up to the people who are just trying to rob your energy, that becomes, honestly, becomes impossible. You can do that, right? And so when you go on this alchemical journey, as like I said, like if you alchemize all the way, you start feeling that, okay, there's just like this, just one separation. There's this thing, right? And then of course there's the fragments there too, because you've alchemized all sorts of fragments there. And then the realization, that's your soul tribe. Every single fragment, there's going to be a friend, a family, or the other half is going to be your other half. People call it the other half, right? In the matrix, it's all like a belief, but on a holistic side, it's actually is so. Okay. Or I'm completely delusional, and this is just all my imagination, but I don't think so. um I don't think so. And it's just something like deep inside, and every fiber of my being just screaming, yeah, I know. Like everything outside you shows that, yay, just come in, this is good. Look, people are having fun, it all looks good. It's just pleasures, and it's just, just, why are you just fighting these demons? Just come in and play with the demons, and shit like that. And so, you know what? No, fuck this. Like, there's something about this particular life where I just promised to myself, I said, no, not in this lifetime. I'm not gonna be in some dysfunctional fucking connection in this lifetime. No. And I don't care what I need to go through. And I don't even care if it's not gonna happen in the physical reality. But I will live happy, real, not selling my soul with my soul. I don't give a shit if it's just I'm the only one on this planet that lives like that. That's how awesome it is. That's how these hedonistic pleasures just come completely, can't even compare it. Okay. And and this is a type of attitude that I took, and it's a very extreme attitude. And but I took it. I decided that, there was like a wavering at this about this for me. I was like, oh no, but maybe some of the matrix is all right, and sort of like dipping in this and dipping out and being sort of pussyfooting around it. But right now, no, enough. I've learned enough. I've witnessed those energies. I've took enough chances to make sure that I'm not making shit up, that that to make sure that like maybe some people in the matrix are right, maybe there is, you see what I'm trying, like I took all of these chances to see if it's not right. So I'm not saying this because just like a belief. I went through this. I probably gone into every single trap that matrix could offer, right? I probably went into a single one of them. For me to say that like don't go into these, because I've been through that and I know that it doesn't have any kind of um, uh, value there. The only value that you're going to get there is the wisdom of knowing not to go there, and that is your gem. You can say that you did get the gem, and the whole thing about the gem is just saying don't go there, right? And so then you can go through life and all of these demons are just kind of whispering things into you, but you are completely closed off, and the trick already. The trick already. This is how it allows you to go through it and be in hell among demons, but it completely untouched and pure. And let's just be honest, like all this idea that we're trying to build this holistic way, and how much fighting it takes. It is an attempt to build paradise in hell. This isn't paradise on earth. This is an attempt to build paradise in hell, which is a completely different story. If the shining ones are building paradise on earth, this particular situation right now is not working out. Only the fire ones now can build the paradise in hell, and then the shining ones will build the paradise on earth. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but these are just words that are coming to my mind. All right, so it's almost, well, it's actually over an hour. But that's just something that I just wanted to spread out into the ether, okay? And there may be few of us, and there some people may joining our ranks, and also learning of how to say no, compassionate no to those offers. I still have the compassion, because you can say no with hate. It's like, well, I hate what you're doing. I hate the fact that you are so, you know, um, disrespectful, to love, and you just engaging in these hedonistic pleasures and lust and all of this matrix traps, and believing that this is life, right? But you can say, I'm just saying no to this, and alchemize all the hate towards it, which is natural to have, because but that compassion will protect you. It will be much easier for you to say no. But if there's hate, then there's some attachment there. You may give in to lust because you have hate. Does that make sense? Because matrix connections are lust hate relationships. Notice that, like when, in my case, if a woman is um, trying to get some from me and I say no, what's the reaction do they have? Do they say like, oh, okay, maybe another time? They attack me. So there you go. I know exactly what was your intentions. um there was no pure intentions at all. you know and you may say, well, any other guy who would have these offers by women would just like jump on opportunity and brag about it, and say like, look at me, and I can sleep with just so many women, and that's the I'm an alpha now. Look at me. Do you want some to buy my book? I can teach you exactly how to also be a piece of shit like me. You can say, why don't you do that? I mean, I'll answer that question, because that's a piece of shit thing to do. Okay, it's a very nihilistic approach to life. It is not a gentleman's way. You know, and and everybody, I don't know, like at least in my feeds, I don't know why algorithm thinks that that's what I'm interested in, but I'm not. And they send me all this fucking macho bullshit where like, um, why the bad guys get all women, you know? And it's like, no, they don't get women, they get horse. Let's just be honest. Look at those quote unquote bad guys, and then other people like emulate and say like, what is this thing about the bad guy that attracts women? Oh, he doesn't give a shit about them. He doesn't give a fuck about them. Oh, I see. So I just have to also not to give a shit about them, and women react. But it's not the woman that reacts, it's their ego, right? It is the ego cannot take the rejection, so then it's trying to, and it builds lust, right? So what you're doing there is just building lust in a woman. And if a woman is the type of woman and she functions in the ego, then that's what you're gonna get, right? And all of these people, they're still doing this. I can't fucking believe this, but everybody fucking knows what's really going on. And they couldn't have the love of their life, right? They were so hurt by that fact, and now compensating and becoming this um I don't know what the fuck this is, but this is some abomination, not a man. Rather than teaching men of how to become a man, a gentleman, a great man, and understanding to have that connection with the woman that is genuine and thing, it takes hard work. It actually takes the great work. It takes the real great work, not this other bullshit that some people trying to sell it and make it sell this idea that the great work is about some astral projection and stuff like that. That's not a great work. The great work is alchemy. And it's, at the same time, it's not these people who talk about alchemy, but they don't do it. None of that. And that's the nature of the matrix. It takes something that's real and try to imitate. But you can't fake energy. You can't falsify it. You can sprinkle this pixie dust, on people's eyes and make them go like, and but that's not real. Anyway. So yeah. And yeah, and I don't see people teaching that. And these other gullible men are following this advice, and they may have had a soul, they may have had that soul, that real thing, but it just didn't work. And that hurt that they had, instead of going into the alchemical way and learning things directly and alchemizing that hurt into wisdom and seeing how things work and understanding that there's gonna be a girl who is not part of this, that she's also just like you, that got out of it, and she was also hurt by that thing, but she also uh, dealt with it through her heart and not some external means and chasing, the dragon. And your soul really wanted that love, and you gave up on it and became some schmuck that is now, making demons lust for you. And they don't know, they have no idea how hard it's going to be to have a normal life. They're not going to have a normal life, after sleeping with thousands of women or after sleeping with thousands of men. What do you think is suddenly now you're going to just become um awaken, and you're just gonna meet somebody and it's gonna be love for the rest of your life? No, you're fucked. This lifetime you're fucked, you're done. Okay, you went full retard. You never go full retard. You may have had few, like for example in my case, like every time I'm single, right? I do give a jab at it and say like, well, maybe, let's just try dating, whatnot. And okay, you date somebody, you have sex, and it's just okay. What the fuck is that all about? You know what I'm trying to say? And then I quit really quickly, and I'm like, no, this is not for me. This is bullshit. Because everybody else is doing, so I'm just gonna give it a jab at it. Then you really quickly notice that, like, no, this is bullshit. This is fucked up. But there's that hope that, like, oh, maybe I'll find some way that this is just gonna turn normal now, and it's gonna be all right. No, it will never be all right. This is not right. It's just not right. Like, there has to be some real connection. There has to be some love there. Fuck the some. It has to be all. At this point in my life, it has to be all love. And then the romance is real. Then the sex is real. And these hedonistic pleasure seeking people, they will never understand. I don't think that they could understand what it's like to even have sex out of love, or have love. Because, you can make love and can have sex, but when you have sex, that's more like an animalistic way of of making love. But because there's love, there's that reconnection there, and there's none of that separation thing and none of these horrible feelings that happen. That then you have to deal with it and perhaps just go into another bender for some more. And that's what the addiction happens. This is why I say, like, look, I'm not against sex. I'm not against anything that isn't sex, because human body, it's like I said, it's a profane thing, and let's just be honest, right? But when you have something sacred, the profane thing can be handled and it's fun. Okay? Then you can go nuts and you can play and everything, because there's love there, and love purifies everything. And then you can go kinky, and then you can go crazy, because love is going to purify everything. And so that's my approach. But you can't do this with somebody that you don't love. You can't. And all of this open relationship nonsense and all of this is just, let's just be, no, this is just somebody just being afraid to be in love and wants to have their cake and eat it too, kind of thing. And they could have it. You see, they could have it. If they choose love, they will have the romance and sex, if they choose the right type of, partner that clicks with them on all these levels. But you have to be alchemical, you have to be devotional, that's the only way you're going to recognize. And then you have to have balls to do this. You have to be all in. You cannot pussyfoot around about this. Then you'll have all that, and nothing will be missing. But if you go with the pleasure, you will never find love. Does that make sense? But this is what people try to do, is like, well, I'm just going to have pleasure from this person, and then I'm going to try to have love from this one, and then I'm going to have romance with this person, and what the fuck is that even? And you can't have, you can't, you're just Frankensteining some abominable way. And yes, there is a body desires that are driving you, there's mind desires that are driving you, and there's soul desires that are driving you. But rather just going through the soul, the mind, and the body, you go through the body, mind, and then soul, and you try to Frankenstein everything. And this is why you're not with one person that has all of these things together, that connects to you perfectly. You're chasing from one another like a headless chicken, and you don't know what the fuck is going on. And of course, nobody is going to be okay with that, right? I have this from this person, I have that from that, and it's like, what is this thing going on, right? And see, that's the thing, in a holistic approach, there's something there, something beautiful, something that is real, all of these soul dreams that you had, they are real, they're true, right? There is no confusion there. Who's your uh, partner, or who's your uh, does that make sense? Yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm on the wrong planet, but then again, maybe when the war times. So anyway, so that's my little babble for today, guys. Okay, I just spit it out, everything that I have to say. um I'm sticking with this, and I'm not even, like, hey, people can do their stuff. That's another thing I say. No, people say that the world is your reflection. That is absolute nonsense. Like, if the world would be your reflection, then anybody who's just like um wholesome and and connected to the source would make the whole world like that. But it doesn't work like that, does it? The reality is that your world can be like that, but this is a virtual reality that has multiple uh, worlds within one world. And when you go into the another belief system, right, now you in your bubble reality, and you have to not to give up to that belief system because it's gonna eat you alive. And it's not that once you go with your energy in that belief system that suddenly everybody now drops their beliefs and stops functioning like that. There's some value, perhaps some value for you to alchemize things to remain in your bubble, and there's some, but it's all about you cultivating your reality, your world. And that's the best impact on the whole world as a system. And slowly, maybe a little bit, there's an impact, and then some belief system starts relaxing. And does that make sense? So there might be an impact on the whole because of your world. If you remain living on this planet in this holistic world where things are awesome and peaceful and blissful, even though the other side of the world is burning and whatnot, but you live in that reality bubble, at least it gives the best chance for the rest of the world to follow suit. That's the best thing that I can come up with without this idea of trying to save people and try to save the world. It's not how it is done. You have to create your world on this planet, despite everything that's going on, full of love, full of light, full of creativity, full of awesomeness, full of real friends, full of your true love, full of, well, and a real family. And whoever these people are going to be, these people are going to be, right? Not that you are now a complete dick to the rest of the world. No, you still socialize and interact with, but you know where they're at, and you're not trying to change them. You just, because you know that you cannot, right? And that's the best thing. Like, if you come up with this, I came up with this conclusion through many trial and errors, and that's fucking relieving. It's like, oh shit, I don't have to, I don't have to do any of this stuff. I just need to make sure that my world, or our world, I suppose, is awesome. you know and I do live in a garden. I need to work up a little bit. I need to start making some movements here, but I'm gonna be living here, and maybe on some, I don't know, maybe some Texas ranch, but I'm gonna be living in my world. It's gonna be amazing and awesome, and it's the best thing that I can do. Our world, I suppose to say. Gotta drop that habit, huh? So there's like a huge cycle and a huge thing that's closing off. Um, this thing that is quite real, that you can merge with somebody else's consciousness. This is real thing, guys. This is awesome, actually. And each person can be a portal. Okay. And look, like, you can hang out with somebody, right? But not open your little heart. You can hang out with them and have really good time and everything, but there's that nope right there. You can hang out with somebody that is kind of matrix schmuck and still have a good time, but not that openness, and they can't get to that thing that they're trying to get from you, right? Because all these demons and that person is trying to get that these gems from your heart. But no, motherfucker, you can't just enjoy the glow, but you can get those gems. First of all, even if you do get it, you're just gonna fuck it all up because you don't know what to do with this, right? So that's my lesson: is just don't let them in. Only the soul that has exact same intention as you could just be in your little heart, because it's you, right? It's just another half of you. So you can't. That's the only thing that you can trust with these gems. Don't throw your pearls against the swine. And I guess that is the name of this video. Everything that I said in this video, a lot of things that I said about the video, is about this. Do not throw your pearls against the swine. They can warm up in the glow, but do not give it to them. Okay? That's what you do. You're like, oh, somebody's, pretending to be innocent. So like, oh, look, somebody is hurting. Let me try to give some of my gems to them. No, you lose it. And what about your soul desire? Right? No, it's not gonna work like that. And the world isn't like, oh, we're all just family. No, the world isn't like that. Potentially it can be some, like, in 1,000 years from now, maybe it can be, but right now it's not. The most that you can do is you have your world that is quite awesome and sustainable, and you have real friends. And the difference, I say, like, you can have that. There's no reason to be nihilistic about this, and it's like, oh, the whole matrix is fucked up, there's nothing to do. No, you can still have your own little world. It's not difficult. You just have to connect with the right people, collaborate, build what you want to build, and live on this planet the way it's supposed to be lived on this planet. You can still do it. You can still find your, like, your real tribe, but it's going to be a lot of false nonsense, false tribes, right? The people who just imitate it. It's like, oh yeah, we want we want this thing, but then when you look closely, what do? They still chasing dragons. They still believing in nonsense. There's no movement in the right direction in their heart. And you're like, you guys are just clowns clowning around. And you probably are the worst because you're pretending that you're all about that, right? And I'm sorry, but that's just the way it works. That's just the way it is. And then you meet somebody who's just like a normal person, doing his thing, is not really showing off in any kind of way. It doesn't look spiritual, or does not look, tribal or hippie or anything like that. And what do you know? The most awesome and clear energy and real intention, uh, real desire to build this way of life, not to go too crazy and start creating some sort of nonsense cults, but to say how to, like, that's all we want. We just want to be able to create what we want, play on this planet, have fun, make love, and have a good life. Fight the demons every day, you know, together, and you could still have a really good life. But you got to let go of trying to change the rest of it. And then maybe when you have that strong way of life, that holistic way of life, and you have that stability there, and it's solid and sustainable, then you can go and try to see if the laws can be changed for the better. Because making YouTube video doesn't make any fucking difference. It doesn't matter how wise it is. What makes difference is the actual change of laws and the change of the uh, uh, approaches and these laws that are enforced, and you see all these things that are really matters. Or like what kind of consensus in the psychological world. If people still don't understand how consciousness works, they're just gonna fucking people over all, unless they figure out how consciousness works and understand the need for the vertical development and something that's real, and um that is necessary, and that is the way for the permanent cure of the trauma, right? Which is just a distortion. Krishnamurti was just been bending over backwards and trying to send this message over and over and again, over and over again. And some people got it, but how do you implement this into part of the society? Don't know, but there's a challenge. But it could be implemented. I mean, if the government really cared about these people, at least it would do that. And now they actually are talking about, they're recognizing that the problem is addiction, and then they're looking close enough, at least, and they have all this movement of American Society Anti-Addiction or something like that, right? Like they're creating these movements and they're financing them, and they're trying to figure out what's the cure for the addiction and all that stuff. And I'm glad that they're calling it addiction and not calling it, alcoholism or something like that, because it's addiction, and addiction stems from the, the separation in your heart, and the solution is your own attention there, not somebody else's. Your own attention looking there, where that addiction or that drive is coming from, and then it's going to be the end of it. And then there's going to be other desires that you want to create, which are in the mind and the body, and you go for it, right? And this is why, like, the life does not end just because you start living through your heart and you're like, well, now I'm enlightened, so now life is not important, my body is not important, my mind is not important. No, you still play, you still express yourself. And now that seeking is functional, right? Because you're not seeking now to fix your soul desires. You're seeking because there's a desire in your mind to create something, and in the body to survive and thrive and all these things. I can't believe that this is not butter. But anyway, so that's my little story. Is there anything else that I want to say? No, just don't throw the pearls against swine. Trust me on this. I know that there's this, could be this knowing thing, which is like, no, but somehow we could help him, no. This is how they get you. It's that they feed on your vulnerability, in on your empathy. That's how they get you, right? This is why, like I said, empathy is supposed to be very highly selective to the people that are reciprocating, guys. And I'm sure about this. I've looked at it so many times, and I know that is the power, and the love is the infinite energy. If you're in that state, it's churning up and it's never ending as long as you're in that state. The confidence and innocence is a finite energies, and so you that's what everybody wants to get what they want. You need to have those energies. And so to get the innocence, arrogance is trying to get innocence. And to get confidence, cunningness is trying to get confidence, right? And so you got to say no to these portals, that so you keep your confidence, and you only open up to somebody who has genuine innocence, and then only then the real playfulness can happen, right? And there's something mutually can be born out of this. If you don't have that in the physical reality, then you can open up to that energy in the astral reality. Okay, you're not locked up, you're not in prison. This world does not lock you up. You have still have a full right in your imagination and practice astral projections and all sorts of things, and then you do what you want to do. Okay, and you can still remain connected with that innocence energy as you're building up the confidence. And you see what I'm trying to say, as a man you're building up the confidence and you're still remaining with that innocence energy, but you don't leak it to the matrix horse, and vice versa. And right now it's so important, and other times maybe not, but right now it's so important to just stay there and not to go into the matrix, because you got to stay there long enough until the matrix breaks, until the your causal reality and your astral reality is lived for you so fully that you don't give a shit what happens in the physical, as long as you take care of your physical things, and you live your life like that. And eventually it will break, but you don't give a shit if it will. That's how nonchalant you're supposed to look at the matrix, because matrix will always try to fuck you over, you see. And when you don't give a shit, you say like, okay, if you are not giving me this thing that I'm manifesting, I'm just going to be living in this thing, and fuck you, you don't have to give it to me, right? I know that eventually, after some few cycles and whatnot, it's gonna break. And but I'm not in a rush anywhere. I'm already in bliss and peace, and I'm already in any kind of relationship that I want to have in the astral reality with the souls that I want to be with. I'm okay, I'm cool. And you just basically say to the matrix what it really is. You say like, you're just a fucking projection screen. If I say, and if I that's what I imagine, that's what you're going to project. You can pretend that you're resistant to it, you can pretend that you're not going to give it to me, but at this point I don't give a shit, because I already lived my life. Whether you're going to reflect that or not, I don't give a shit. And that's when it's going to start breaking. When you're no longer waiting, right? When you already have the friends that you want to be with, you already have the love that you want to be with, we already have the peace and bliss and fulfillment in your heart, you already have everything. And everything is quote unquote non-physical. And you don't really give a shit whether it's come on in the physical or not. Why should you? What is the physical reality have over astral or causal? Nothing. The only thing that it has, it's a story, because events can be experienced in the astral. All the soul desires could be fulfilled in the causal. So what does the physical need it for? Is to weave the story together. That's why the physical is needed for. Right? So there you go. So that's pretty much like the biggest fuck you to the matrix that you could do, could have. You understand? And for some reason it does have that type of resistance, but it cannot resist this continuous over and over, where you see what I'm trying to say, like it the resistance may still work if you still wait for it, if you still kind of want for the matrix to reflect your dreams. This is the moment you don't give a shit because you live complete life already. And of course, in a physical, you just have to make sure that you have your physical needs met, but you live your life already. You don't give a shit what's going on in the physical anymore. Look, I'm saying this because I'm gonna get out of this, but sometimes when I live in this type of mode, fuck, like I don't know why I got out of it sometimes, because the reason I got out of it is get out of it is because like there's that motion of me. It's like, oh, maybe it's coming in the physical, and as soon as I do that, then things are not going well. But as soon as I don't try to seek from the physical, and by the way, like that seeking sometimes it is could be motivated by all sorts of advice in a physical that's going on, right? And you gotta just say no to all of that. Really, like, man, like you really see like, okay, you guys don't know what you're doing. You're just trying to cope in the matrix. I know in a matrix it works for the hedonistic pleasures. Okay, fine, good. And that's not how I live my life. And this is could be a challenge for you to just get to that point to say like, could it be that everybody in my life except just few people are wrong the way they approach life? And as soon as you realize that they are, and you understand that there's only few of us, you're gonna stop seeking that that has to come from the matrix. Okay? You almost have to say that I'm just gonna keep on dreaming because it feels good. I'm just gonna keep on feeling because it feels good, and that's what it's gonna be ending. This is it. My life is gonna be lived in those worlds. And if the physical is indeed the reflection, then it will reflect. But I'm not gonna be checking on it all the time. Does that make sense? It has to start chasing you because you keep on projecting all that good stuff. And sometimes you say, well, I've been doing this, I've been projecting and stuff like that, and then you checked, right? So it's like that. um it's like, if the hen would sit on the egg and every minute would just jump off of it and check if there's, you know a chick bursting out of the egg, then it would never burst out of the egg, right? Because you keep on checking on it, and every time you check, you you cramp the process. So there's that movement in consciousness that has to end, because it never gives you, because if it's coming to you in the physical, it's coming to you in the physical. Why do you need to check? You see what I'm trying to say? Why do you need to say like, well, when is it going to come? Why do you need to wait? As soon as you check, as soon as you wait, you doubt, you introduce doubt, and then you introduce the in the system. Okay? And that's what they want to say to myself and to you, that really you can totally get to the point where you have all the best feelings that your soul desire and all the best dreams that your mind desires. You can totally do that. It's not difficult. It's natural, actually, once you start putting your attention energy there, not leaking onto other things. Okay? And when something comes up from the matrix, you can say, well, okay, is this my soul desire coming my way? Which, of course, you would feel immediately awesome. Or is this another test that's coming my way? You know? And honestly, at this point, like, if you're alchemizing the energies, forget about any kind of fucking tests. If somebody comes in and try to test you, it's because they're insecure. If they don't have capacity to see that you're trustworthy because of your energy, next. It's just like that. Don't even bother playing this game. As as long as you're good in your heart, you don't need to take nobody's test. In fact, they need to take your tests and see if they will fall through into their hearts and let go of their egos. Okay? Soul must be disciplining the ego, not ego disciplining the soul. And this is what sometimes happens, like, oh, all right, so you're going to double down on your soul. You lose this in a matrix. Fine, fucking take it. Take it. And if you can't take something away from me, then it's not mine. If something is so mine that it just keeps on coming to me and insisting on being with me, and there's no capacity for the matrix to stop that, then it is mine. But if the matrix can prevent me from having that, then it's not mine. Because it's just asking me to, again, depend on it. You see? You just have to have that gangster approach. And that's it. And yes, that will make a lot of alchemical challenges, but they're not going to be lasting. They're not going to be cyclical, where you just work for somebody else, right? That is just leaking your energy, right? And if you do that, their ego desires are getting fulfilled, but your soul desires are not. Disconnect from all of that stuff. Anyway, I'm just repeating myself right now, but I gotta end this here. It's already 1:40, but I had to get this off my chest and cement this approach to life. Okay? We are in these testy times. It's going to be continuing until like 2029. So just freaking live in peace and bliss and dream about your soul desires, and just make sure that your physical body is taken care of. Really, honestly, right? Just do that. Don't try to change anything else. And look, I can say, I can promise to you, but I do promise to you because it is real. And anything I'm saying in this particular video, it actually boils down to just like one little thing. It's this motion of consciousness that is incorrect. But it's continuously fucking trying to be messed with, you see? And last year at the same time, it was exact same lust attack or similar lust attack that this year. And it is cyclical. Those things happen. And we're just going to be in it until we pass all these tests, and all tests are passed. And all the possible permutations of this alchemical energy are alchemized. And that's when you get your Philosopher's Stone or your Holy Grail if you're a woman. And then you're done. You're cooked fully. And you're just going to be in the world, but not off the world. But it doesn't mean that the whole world is going to be awesome right now. Your world is going to be awesome. And it's going to be untouchable. That's the thing, is that your world is going to be awesome, and other people may try to ruin it, but they won't be able to. Because it's going to be impregnable, immutable, sustainable, unfathomable. Right? Okay, I'm losing my mind. All right, guys. Peace, and I'll see you in the next one.